Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. According to relevant information, during archaeological excavations, many Chinese experts have discovered a surprising commonality in the tombs of ancient empresses and concubines. Their 9 orifices, including the anus, were often blocked with smooth jade objects. This phenomenon is very common in the tombs of these women. Why would such a custom be found in the tombs of women of high status? This is closely related to the hierarchical system in feudal society. The ancient feudal hierarchy deeply permeated all aspects of social life. And funeral rites were no exception. It is known that starting from the Western Zhou period, Duke of Zhou established the strict system of Zhou rites to maintain the hierarchical order of the noble class. And this system was applied to all aspects of social life. Specifically, the Zhou rites included 5 main types of ceremonies: Ji-li, ceremonial rites; Xiongli, mourning rites; Junli, military rites; Binli, guest rites; and Jia-li, congratulatory rites. Among these, Ji-li was related to sacrificial rites. Ji-li represented one of the embodiments of the hierarchical system. People of different social ranks followed different ceremonial norms. For example, in many modern historical dramas, we see that during times of war, many common people did not receive proper burial after death. Ordinary people often lacked the financial means to buy a coffin, let alone hold a respectable funeral. Even those commoners who could afford a coffin typically had very simple funerals, with modest burial goods. This situation not only stemmed from the financial limitations of ordinary people but also from the clear funeral regulations for people of different identities and social ranks in ancient China. For instance, there were specific rules regarding the size of the burial plot, the shape of the tombstone, and the height of the tomb. For example, the burial plot for commoners was only 20 square meters, while the burial plot for nobles and high-ranking officials reached 100 square meters. As one moved from commoners to nobles and then to emperors, the funeral specifications and arrangements gradually increased. These regulations were not just legal or ceremonial requirements, but also part of the social reality of the time, reflecting the stark differences between social classes. As the Li Ji, Book of Rites, says, rights do not apply to commoners, and punishment does not apply to ministers. This phrase does not mean that commoners could ignore rights, or that nobles were exempt from legal punishment. But rather it emphasizes that rituals were mainly designed for the noble class, while laws were more applicable to common people. For emperors, funeral rites were not only a symbol of status but were also closely linked to the legitimacy of their rule. Emperors were often regarded as sons of heaven, meaning they represented the mandate of heaven, ruling the human world and shouldering the responsibility of governing the people. Therefore, the funeral rites of emperors were extremely grand, with rigorous procedures and elaborate ceremonies, reflecting their supreme authority. As important members of the imperial family, the lives of concubines were under great scrutiny, and their funerals would similarly attract widespread attention. Based on their social rank during their lives, concubines would wear corresponding attire, and their burial site would be determined according to their status. All these arrangements required the emperor's final approval and were carried out by designated officials. The lives and deaths of concubines were strictly controlled by the system. Not only did they lack the freedom to make their own choices during their lifetimes, but they also could not make decisions after death. Their lives seemed to be spent within a golden cage, constantly under the watch of the imperial family and constrained by the social hierarchy. One common practice was that when a concubine was buried, the 9 orifices of her body, including the anus, would be sealed with jade objects. According to relevant historians, this ritual had a certain connection to Taoism. Although ancient China was primarily influenced by Confucian thought, during the Wei, Jin, and northern and southern dynasties, constant warfare and uncertainty in people's lives made it difficult for traditional Confucianism to comfort the people's hearts. In such a turbulent era, people turned to religion for psychological solace and a reason to keep going. It was in this social context that Taoism gradually developed and became more mature during this period. Taoism emphasizes the protection and soothing of the soul, which contributed to the special treatment of the concubine's body. Sealing the 9 orifices, including the anus, with jade was seen as a way to protect the soul, and such practices were also a form of hope and expectation for the afterlife. Additionally, Taoism was widely embraced by both the high-ranking officials and common people at the time. Partly because of its promotion of immortality. The pursuit of immortality was a shared desire among many people, especially during times of upheaval, as this belief provided them with a glimmer of hope and a reason to live. For emperors who wielded supreme power and wealth, they had already enjoyed almost all of the world's pleasures and glory. Therefore, the desire for immortality became even more obsessive and hard to relinquish. To continue their power and indulgence, emperors often became obsessed with the idea of achieving eternal life. One of the methods promoted by Taoism to achieve immortality was through the refinement and consumption of various elixirs, which were believed to grant eternal life. However, through modern scientific analysis, we know that these so-called golden pills often contained toxic ingredients, and long-term consumption not only failed to bring immortality but could cause great harm to the body. Many emperors in history who consumed these pills did not achieve the legendary immortality, but instead lost their lives as a result. Therefore, Taoist priests gradually developed another theory, which was that since death is an inevitable end for everyone, and the afterlife is unknown, the only direct connection to the world of the living is the body. As a result, Taoism began to promote the idea of achieving immortality by preserving the body. To maintain the integrity of the body and prevent the vital energy from flowing out, the body's 9 orifices were sealed to prolong its life force. In ancient times, orifices referred to the body's openings, such as the eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, making 7 common orifices. In addition to these, other body openings were also considered orifices, bringing the total to 9, one of which was the anus. So, why did they use jade to block these orifices? In ancient China, jade was not only a symbol of status and power but was also believed to possess magical powers. The ancients believed that jade could protect the soul and prolong life. Therefore, jade objects were used to block the anus and other orifices, figuratively referred to as jade plugs. These jade plugs were typically smooth and without patterns, devoid of complex decorations, presenting a simple yet refined form. Archaeologists have discovered such smooth jade artifacts in many ancient tombs. Initially, people were puzzled by these objects, unable to understand their purpose. However, with deeper archaeological research, more and more evidence suggests that these jade items were actually used to prevent the leakage of vital essence from the body. The ancient saying goes, "Gold and jade in the 9 orifices prevent the corpse from decaying." This phrase indicates that jade was believed to preserve the integrity of the body and prevent decomposition. From a religious perspective, this practice aligns with Taoist beliefs, which held that protecting the body could achieve immortality. From a modern scientific viewpoint, jade has certain antibacterial properties that can effectively inhibit the growth of bacteria and microorganisms, thereby slowing the decomposition process. Although this practice does not actually preserve the body indefinitely, from the scientific level of that time and in the context of Taoist beliefs, jade did indeed play an active role in delaying the body's decay. It is also worth mentioning that the ancient Chinese had already discovered the preservative properties of mercury. To prevent the body from decomposing and maintain its integrity, they would soak the body in mercury. This practice was related to alchemy, as alchemists used mercury in their medicinal preparations. Although mercury is a metal, it is liquid and has bactericidal and detoxifying properties. The ancient people gradually formed the habit of using mercury for body preservation. However, simply preventing decay was not enough, it was also necessary to prevent the mercury from entering the body. The ancients cleverly came up with a solution, using jade to block the body's holes. This way, they could prevent the mercury from entering the body while still protecting it from decomposition. Why choose jade? Jade has a unique characteristic: its smooth surface can perfectly seal the body's holes and prevent the mercury from entering. Additionally, mercury solidifies when it comes into contact with jade, preventing it from flowing further. This was one of the reasons the ancients chose jade. This method not only protected the body but also ensured the effectiveness of the mercury in preserving it. Thus, these seemingly strange practices of the ancients actually reflect their pursuit of immortality and their wisdom in preserving the body. They also demonstrate their respect for the deceased and reverence for life. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone, and see you in the next time.